Hello and welcome back to the new episode of Podcasts with Parshva. I'm your host Parshva and joining me is Muddassir Hussain. Welcome Muddassir. It's great to have you once again.
Thanks for having me back, Parshva. It's always a pleasure to be joined by you and your excellent questions.
Thank you so much, Muddassir. This podcast is going to be an end of season review. Muddassir and I are going to be talking about the major things that happened over the course of the 2019-20 season. And Muddassir, being a journalist, his opinions are very valuable. So he'll be sharing his two pies with us and he'll be giving his thoughts on what he thinks about a few questions that I'll be talking about. So, Muddassir, to begin with, the entire footballing world was hit by the pandemic, and when COVID-19 hit the world in March, Real Madrid were trailing by 2 points in La Liga, and then they went on an unstoppable run of 10 wins out of 10 after the resumption in the league, and Barcelona had a completely opposite downfall. We could say they lost the league to Madrid by 5 points, and so if you compare, Madrid scored 7 more points than Barcelona in the last 11 games. So Real Madrid winning La Liga under Zinedine Zidane. Zidane, he spoke that La Liga was his priority. So are you satisfied with Zinedine Zidane's work, because he failed in the UEFA Champions League? That's the first time he has been knocked out. But winning the La Liga, does that give you some satisfaction?
Yeah, interesting question. I mean, I'll start off by saying Zidane probably overachieved with this team that he had at his disposal. So, to be honest with you, I can't criticize Zidane in the league at all, because it was almost flawless, especially after the lockdown. As you say, we were 2 points behind when we blew it against Betis, and I thought that's it. Like they won't recover from that, because winning the highs from winning El Clasico and then that terrible performance and complacent performance against Betis, it just didn't look right. And then after the lockdown, perhaps it gave Ramos and Modric that time to reinvigorate themselves, that time to get fit. Clearly they worked hard during the lockdown. They looked like different players. They looked 2-3 years younger, and they were really the backbone behind the post-lockdown form, really. I think we went on a 10-match winning streak, which was enough to seal the title. It was historic in so many ways. Zidane knew that he had lacked goals. He knew that he can't solve it very quickly, especially this season. So he sought off another method of winning the league, and it was a defensive masterclass in the end. And Real Madrid are like the last team you would expect to be solid at the back. I mean, we were almost Atletico Madrid-like under Cholo Simeone, and it was amazing. Like, as a Madrid fan growing up, seeing the Galacticos and all the expansive football that we're used to, Madrid are used to scoring 3 or 4 goals a game, but this team were grinding out 1-0s every match. And
Exactly.
whilst it's amazing, unfortunately I don't think it's sustainable at all, which is why there's the need of improving this summer, either in the market or with the players that he already has. But yeah, it was a historic league title. Full credit to Zidane and his men.
Okay, so on Sunday night, Bayern and PSG faced off in what was a historic Champions League night. Bayern winning their second treble. They won the first treble in 2013, and Robert Lewandowski rightfully winning the treble. And with all that he has done, 55 goals, so 10 assists, and Bayern completely not dominating. I wouldn't say dominating because it was an open game on both ends. PSG failed to capitalize the chances that they got. Mbappe, for the sort of player he is and the sort of expectations you have from him, he missed a quite easy chance. And Bayern, it was a completely opposite game to what was expected. It was a 1-0 win, and what was expected was a goal fest, but that wasn't to be the case. So Bayern winning the UEFA Champions League. What are your thoughts on their season? Hansi Flick completely turned it around, and he was unbeaten in the last 30 games, winning 29 and drawing just one. So, what are your thoughts on Bayern? Do you think they are the best team in the world right now?
I think they're comfortably the best team in the world right now. Yeah, the final was strange, wasn't it? It was definitely not what everyone expected. I mean, I guess you could even say all the attackers sort of were underwhelming.
Switched off.
Yeah, they were. It wasn't the game that anyone was expecting. To be honest with you, big games like that. I remember Arrigo Sacchi saying, the legendary Milan manager. This guy basically said these games are won and lost in the midfield. These big games, and that's where Bayern. Bayern were tremendous in midfield. God knows how they're going to replace Thiago, because I've actually been quite critical of Thiago in the past. Just simply because of his consistency, really. He's obviously a very magical player and easy on the eye. Technically extremely gifted. I mean, he's Brazilian and he's a Spanish national, so why wouldn't he be technically gifted? Coming through La Masia as well. But my only sort of criticism of him has been that he's been inconsistent when it matters most in these Champions League ties. But yeah, he sort of carried them on his back in the quarters, semis, and in the final as well. The goal came from him, that breaking the lines pass. It was one in the midfield, because PSG without Verratti and Gay, they sort of looked a bit lost, and they were the thing about Bayern Munich is this Bayern Munich, they're remarkable in many ways because they can hurt you in many ways. They're physically very, very scary. It's like a team of robots, and they can also hurt you because they're technically extremely gifted, very high IQ level footballers. We're talking about
Thomas Muller.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Muller contributed something like 47 goals in a season, when under Niko Kovac he was looking for a way out. He was looking for a way out the club. He was probably gone.
Exactly.
So yeah, all credit to Hansi Flick. He's sort of done a Zidane, really, hasn't he? Come in mid-season and gone on a ridiculous run. Something that Guardiola couldn't do, he's done in 40 games. I mean, amazing, really. So yeah, they're looking formidable, man, and you can only see that they're gonna add to their squad with Leroy Sané. They'll probably lose Thiago. Obviously, he wants to leave, so that is a big question mark. How can they replace that kind of ready-made experience and nous and quality? That's going to be difficult for them, but they've got young players, a young core, a hungry core. And yeah, like I say, they can hurt opponents in many, many ways, and they're pressing. My God, that was scary. Like, Neymar and Mbappe didn't have a sniff. Neymar now I think has gone on his longest run without scoring. Yeah, I think it's 4 games now without scoring. Mbappe, to be honest with you, yes, he fluffed his chance, and yes, he sort of didn't have the game that everyone is expecting. Mbappe, when I look at Mbappe when he's in full flight, the guy can change a game in an instant. Like, with his movement, simple off the ball movement, he can sort of go faint right, and then he'll all of a sudden, in a single snap of a second, he'll go bang left, and he'll sort of open up the space. And that will sort of completely almost turn the tide of the game. But he wasn't able to do that. I don't know if he's playing through the pain barrier, because obviously he was injured. He was rushed back. Maybe he was playing with injections. I don't know. But he didn't look completely like Mbappe. But then he had his chance, and you can't back that up. You've got to take that chance. And for a player who's essentially guided his country to the World Cup, he knows that that's a big chance for him, and he probably won't sleep for a couple of nights properly before they get underway again on Saturday. I believe Liga starts for them. But I think we can conclusively say Bayern Munich were the best team.
I agree with that. Bayern are developing a devastating team. On the other hand, in UEFA Europa League in Cologne, Sevilla came out trumps and defeated a visibly stronger Inter Milan side, at least on paper. Sevilla, coached by Julen Lopetegui, who lost his national job with Spain just days before the 2018 World Cup, and then was sacked just 4 months into his coaching role at Real Madrid. Quite a turnaround for him. And what can we say about Sevilla? They are the Real Madrid of UEFA Europa League.
Yeah, they just know how to win, don't they? Weird. Full credit to Lopetegui. I'm so happy for him. Like he deserves it. He's a very, very good manager. Do I think he was right for Real Madrid? Probably not. I don't think he was right for Real Madrid. There's a lot of people saying he was at Madrid. He was the right man at the wrong time. I don't totally agree with it, although I do feel for him, because for any coach to come in and replace Zidane, who won 3 Champions Leagues in a row and like a title every 18 days in his career, 18 matches, sorry. I mean, and you take out Cristiano's 55 goals impact every season, it's gonna hurt any manager that comes in, right? So, and it was a visibly hurting and visibly tired and visibly aging squad that Lopetegui inherited. So I feel like this is the right level for him, and he did a incredible job. I mean, Sevilla are such a technically gifted and a hungry side. He trusted Luke de Jong to turn up, and no one expected Luke de Jong to score. And look what he did. I mean, he's a fine manager, a very, very tactically astute manager. And I feel like in the early periods, Inter Milan were the better team on the front foot. But once Banega in particular started dominating in midfield and sort of stringing passes, and once they got comfortable in midfield and started overlapping runs with Reguilon and Navas, and it was always going to be difficult for Inter Milan, because Sevilla are a very good team once they dominate possession, and it's very difficult to beat them, as Real Madrid and Barcelona find as well in La Liga. They're a tough team to beat.
Due to the enforced pandemic, we had to see 2-legged knockout ties being reduced to 1-legged do or die matches. No room for error, and you saw quite exciting games. The 8-2 drubbing of Barcelona, the 3-1 ousting of Leon by Manchester City. Do you think one-legged ties have a future, considering the sort of excitement that the fans have? And had it been a 2-legged tie, do you think Manchester City would have been knocked out?
I can see a future of it. I mean, the UEFA president recently said as well that it works, and why not consider it? I believe they are considering it. The thing is, I don't like things changing in football too much. And I find over 2 legs, I think quality will always prevail. or at least the vast majority of the time, the best teams will always prevail. And so, yeah, I think Manchester City probably would have recovered. Um,
Yeah,
although it would have been more enjoyable to see a rugby score between Bayern Munich and Barcelona. It would have been even worse for Barcelona, so that took that away. But it would have been a lot more enjoyable in that sense. Um,
16-4.
it could have been anything. Like
Probably.
they
Yeah,
could have had double figures that night as well. But I mean, I'm against it. I think we should just stick with two legs because right, players can have an off night, and although single legs means players don't have that right to have an off night, they have to always be in tip-top shape and perform at the highest level. In one way, you could say it works, but I just feel like the top clubs won't agree with it, and so I don't think they'll decide for single leg ties. To be honest, I think they'll revert back to the two-legged ties.
that's nice to know. I hope UEFA sticks with the two-legged ties, because then you have the fans. You cannot expect fans to travel to a neutral city every year
Yeah,
or for every knockout.
it's a
Yeah, it's a
massive
complete mess.
it's really 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 big because you imagine a side like Leon with a lead going back to the Etihad with all the fans there, um, in that sort of environment atmosphere to play away from home. It's a different task, and that I feel is, if you can win away from home and at home, or you can get a positive result at both venues, that is for me the true meaning of this competition. In terms of
Exactly.
that's when you know you're the best. You look at in the past when Real Madrid have faced previous Bayern Munich sides and they've had to go to the Allianz and win, and then Bayern have had to come to
The
the Bernabeu
Bernabeu.
and win. Um, it's more enjoyable when, for example, like Real Madrid would lose the first leg at the Bernabeu but turn it around at the Allianz, with the fans watching. It's just more captivating, I find.
That's perfect. I mean, you should not change what has been happening since decades. I mean, that's the tradition and that's the true meaning of UEFA Champions League. We'll talk about that on another podcast.